perspective to understand the development of personality. The first theory which we saw is like how Freud looked at the role of unconscious element coming from the right from the deep part of the personality over a period of time has become he adult through a psychoanalytical developmental stage. So we saw how a fixation becomes leading to some other aspect. So, as according to Horney, says like I'm just trying to give a kind of an comparison. Horney, in her theory of personality, she talks about mild anxiety disorder, which are actually created through the culture and how the individual was raised as a child. So the nurture part. So and she brings the paradigm shift against to the views of Sigmund Freud, because she is the one, the term neurosis as created through universal instinctual factors. So Freud stated that it's like according to Freud, so women had a serious set of insecurities, which is considerably uh, larger than male population. And though Horney agreed that Freud is moving towards that females envy of males, so what we call as Oedipus complex, right? One second. So Oedipus complex. So that component, what we is being spoken about, uh, is it's not because of only the anatomy, but it's the cultural component. So she believes the neurosis, the term neurosis, is created through dysfunctional interpersonal relationship. So that is based on her experience in personal life. So she comes up with she believed that the defense mechanism actually is used to counter those neuroses by the individual. So that's how their comparison is all about. So to start with, uh, what is the one second? Yeah, is Karhani a Freudian? Does she does she completely follows the Sigmund Freud's psychoanalytical prospects, right? So, like Freud, she also believed the importance of unconscious motivation, the libidal energy that has what Freud had overstressed in little bit of overstress in psychoanalytical psychosocial development. I mean, the psychosocial development of the child, and her theory was largely based on her life experiences. Her focus was how to relieve a person who is from anxiety, out of pain of her patients. She was largely she criticized the Freud theory from the view of feminine psychology, because she felt that gender also plays a very important role in understanding those similarities in terms of the perceiving pain and the defense mechanisms. So what is that? Let's try to understand the concept of Oedipus complex. So when we say the Oedipus complex, right? So the attachment to the child. So this we have already discussed. Again, I want to bring it in uh, everyone's attention so that it will help to keep the clarity. So Oedipus complex. It's a kind of an attachment of the child's attachment to the opposite sex. So for sometimes when the complex level is high, it is accompanied by the behavior of envy, uh, to an extensive extreme level of aggressive feeling towards the parent of the same sex. So that's what. So how this concept came in actually. So this is all the way you can go back to the philosophy of right on the right corner of your of the PPT. It's a picture from Oedipus, right? So you might have heard about the Roman ancient Greek, the Roman kind of an history, where so Oedipus Trianus, so it's like he learned that he was cursed to kill his father. That's the kind of a picture that you can see. So the history, the prophecy, that actually how this the story of the Oedipus is like he so like he and his wife gave their baby to the son of one of the slaves. So when he was born, and who was to bring uh, and he was brought up by the haunted and by live beasts, beasts, and on the way it's like he grows up like a man, and he comes, and he city welcomed Oedipus and offered him a vacant job of a king, and he get married to Lois, a widow of Jocasta, something that happens. And the Oedipus on the ways is like he develops the certain issues, like Oedipus is cursed as a killer, because at that point of time these what we call it as the signals, or the coming from the cosmos, something. So they used to believe. So Oedipus is, when the plague was infected in the city, so he promised to save the city, and ordered his brother-in-law to consult the Delphi, who is the top of the person. So what happens at the end? So Oedipus, he returned with the news that plague was caused by the unpunished murder that killed his own brother-in-law, and so Oedipus cursed the killer, and but few people said that Oedipus was the killer. So again, he contemplated possibility of him being killer. So his character is something like that. So he blinds himself and was ordered, kind of a thing. So there are two types of complex: Electra complex and Oedipus complex. So Electra complex is, it is the female analog to the Oedipus complex. So it is the female's child erotic desire for the father, and simultaneously the fear of mother. So that is referred as Electra complex. So Electra again, so that's a history character that comes from Greek myth, um, who sought the avenge of the death of her father by Agamemnon. So she was away from home when her mother, Clytemnestra, and so both and her partner Augustus killed his father. So as a result of reaction to this, Electra and her brother um, build a tomb for their brother. Then she uh, gives a promise: one who has taken away his life of father will justice would be done. So that's the kind of an Freud's concept, from where the historical figure that he connects with Oedipus and Electra complex. So Freud created the term Oedipus through his self-analysis, and he claimed that this psychological condition is universal to all. So that is a major pitfall for his denial of psychology, because taking an historical incident, making it universal, may not be culturally relevant. So again, few people denied directly to talk about Electra and Oedipus complex. And he, when Freud saw the play of, he used to see a lot of play in Germany and France. So he supported by the belief that play of modern audiences also, these influences the people how they perceive. So that's the part of the Oedipus and Electra complex. Okay. So Oedipal conflict, yes, we see more in terms of social interaction within the family, right? So the conflict patterns and dominance, also it involves clinging, jealousy, like Freud, but not different reasons. The child is negotiating with her or her place or in the family space. So that is one. So gender envy. So according to Karen Horney, so she denied the importance of uh, the penis envy, so as um, indicated by Sigmund Freud. So according to her, it is a matter of social comparison about their presence. So one who how it is being introduced in based on and a male wishing that they could give birth to a child. This is a universal phenomena across. all all over the world. So this is like when in the womb itself we try to give the gender conceptualization, a few parts they feel. So the fact that one gender might envy feature is more cultural rather than the biological. So this is where Khan Honi shifts her position away from the Sigmund Freud personality, psychoanalytic view of school of personality, that it is more cultural, because how you look at so when we say it's like child is born, the Mahalakshmi is born, and so that's the kind of a perception which we have. But in reality, again, we expect the male child as a being a hair. So that is also is there. So both the perception, it is not related to the biological at all. So that's what Kanhani talk brings, the cultural dimension of those so-called personification that is being built right from the infancy development of the child. So, what is the cause of neurosis? So, according to the Kanhani, the main source of neurosis is depend on the experience of or the feeling of betrayal, of not being loved, or being helpless to bring about the attention that he need to be given some kind of an unconditional love. So, and not in the dynamics of Oedipal conflict. So this is completely in absence of those Oedipal and Electra complexes. So a state of a mental state where an experience of helplessness is there and not being loved. So that is referred as neurosis. Hope I may be able to make clear. Okay. So what is the basic evil? So according to Carl Hawley's theory of personality, one second. The basic evil is for the neurosis is a lack of genuine warmth and affection for the child. The parent is sometimes being abusive for wrongful situation, and the child is not able to figure out why this indifferent behavior, for which am I doing good or am I doing bad? Is it the positive reinforcement or a negative reinforcement? But he's unaware, the child is unaware what would be the impact of this indifferensive abusive behavior on the child. So as a little, there is a lot of anxiety and a feeling of that connection is not happening. So this translates into behaviors like unjust reproaches or unpredictable changes between, or overindulgence also, scornful rejection. So you might have seen children who have been having a troubled childhood, so we'll be having a lot of emotional vulnerabilities in terms of expressing their emotional needs or articulating their emotions. So like articulation, especially in terms of communication, so they'll be having a issue blockages to use the right words, so the mind will be going blank, or they will be having a lot of anxiety, what if they think wrong. So and so they anticipate a lot of fear, so ridiculing, so disturbed friendships, so they are not able to sustain a good long term friendships, spoiling the child interest. So what this will lead in terms of the developing the first reaction, the child when they encounter the basic evil. So unfulfilled promises, sometimes I'll come, I will spend a good family time on Sunday, and the father promises or a mother promises, and that time is not spent with the child. So what happens is that this is the basic evil that gives again going back to the sense of betrayal to the child, right? So as a reaction towards the hostility, so the child encounters, this is like a that threatens the whole trust itself. So the hostility is repressed. So what happens, more you repress those hostilities, okay, let me wait. So it's like if you keep on repressing in your deep layer consciousness, from the consciousness to unconsciousness level, so it results to development of basic anxiety. So anxiety of feeling lonely and helpless in the hostile world. So that is where the part. So So this is where in the worst in a clinical kind of an up level, so the individual feels I'm not worthy to be loved, the despised real self, what we call it as, or pretentious self, talks about, yeah, we do know, we do a lot of self pity sometimes, and we anticipate that self pity uh, need to be listened to from the family members. That's how the pretentious is our self is, and the more beautiful is also our self is. There is one shloka from Gita that comes, "Uddhare Atman Atmana." So it's like, if you think that that I can be a good tool, the self is such a powerful tool. You can destroy yourself, or you can rise up high, like a sunshine, like anything. So the despised real self, there's so much power tool it is. So you make it makes you feel that I'm disgraceful, or someone truly, or it makes you feel more powerful. That's why in our childhood days, it's like we have that good way of the stories are told again and again, how the goodness, or the good virtues of within us can be enriched. So good Panchatantra stories, Jataka tales, or it could be the Birbal stories to talk about the good virtues, how that becomes a important part of your self. So yeah, so the ideal self says, so that this is the despised real self, pretentious one, huh? Very it's very difficult to observe and catch it. Yeah, but you have to be observant. So you should have that kind of a discriminative knowledge. Now, there is one gade, kudre nodidre kaal novu bantante anta. We used to have that, those gades. So like whenever I see a horse, I get a leg pain. Means that's the kind of an conditioning of a behavior, where okay, because at older times people used to travel through chariots, no? So it's like yeah, it's like as soon as you find a vehicle, you feel leg pain. That's the kind of a despised real self, pretentious self that is there. Then you have the ideal self, where you say that yeah, I am very good, I'm more whatever the best part of you, right? So where you would like to feel explorative, adventurous, and you want to be more disciplined, achieve more something, you aspire towards more perfection. Here I would like to bring Sri Arbindo's and mother's work, where Arbindo talks about an evolution of human self, human mankind. So, right from the repetitive and mechanical thinking and thought process, the man evolves above from his own habits. Then he evolves above from the understanding the real self and the pretentious self, and both of them, and again evolving much higher, that not being affected of those two also. So then he talks about the supreme human being. So there's like there is a lot of the self, he brings in true self and higher self, higher order self. So again, it's all nothing but more purified, which is not influenced by our own arishad varga, something which we call it as in yoga also, yama niyama. The first step is where you should be able to build the self discipline in terms of your bringing alignment in your action, thought, and the body needs. So that is all three together. So ideal self comes where more in terms of bringing discipline, being more outgoing or being more kind, celebrating the human virtues within you. So that is what it is. And then comes the neurotic solution to the conflict. Whenever there is obviously the ideal self and the potential self, even if you sit simply, it will be fighting with each other, or it will be revisiting with each other on different aspects. So how do you handle this? One neurotic solution is like, there is no one can be away from this conflict at all. So an ideal self, one which is more what you feed more, where you give more attention more, simply is the one which lives. That's the formula behind it. So how much nurturing, watering happens on the pretentious self and the ideal self is depends on that. Okay. So the tyranny of shoulds, what happens when we a person is driven by ideal self, more ideal. So what happens is like he will be like pushing more towards, yeah, I should do that, I should do this, this is the do's and don'ts, right? So what happens, sometimes the should will fail, bound to fail. So acceptance of the reality will be a kind of an very, you when you are hitting a hard uh, stone, you, after being more precise, disciplined, and following all those virtues, yet I am bound to fail. Why? So then you put yourself questions, no, like in Arjuna Vishada Yoga. So he'll put himself in self hate and feeling of guilt. Oh, I don't want to kill that much of people. I don't want to fight, right? So as well as despair and helplessness. So this is what happens when you are stuck, or the personality is becomes the center of shoots, and when that is predominant, that's where the where you're going to hit the wall very badly. So that's the part of wall which is built by you only, it's not by anyone. So that's you can, if you look at the even Arjuna Vishada Yoga, so it was a wall that he was built right standing in the center of the Kurukshetra, but it is empty wall. So that's the kind of a despair and helplessness affects him. So coming further, this is like when coming of Triani and shoots, what happens when this coming is more and alienation from the self. So you hate more, you lose your own creativity, despair and feel of helplessness comes in, become a part of your own behavior. So that's the result. So the honest concept of the self is the concept, the actual self, right? So the person you are actually are, regardless of anyone's perceptions, that state of self, one which is the true self. Again, it is very difficult to define. If you ask me what is true self, again, for that you need a kind of a spiritual journey to understand in a state which is not being affected either by the vyavahara. We have uh, with two types of dharmas, like pravritti and nivritti dharma. So you do your own duties and not affected by either in internal experiences or external experiences. So that's the kind of actual self. And the real self is the core of your being, what is your nature, subject to view, and you know what kind of combination of human virtues that you possess. So that is real self, and despised the potential self, which we the most of the education institution today are geared to build that pretentious self, right? So the negative view of the self, because any competition, you're comparing with one to other, again, lack of acceptance by others. So these are the despise the potential self, and the ideal self, the perfect self that you think that you should be, again based on the triany of shoots. So this is where the Arjuna for thought that is like, yeah, I want to be ideal self. Now means like you are hitting the wall which is created by your own. So these are the four concepts: the actual self, real self, despised real self, and ideal self. Okay. And how can I keep you and it's like from hurting me? So for example, it's a given a context, so I'll be no the self will be more nice and helpful when there is a self-efficating solution, means moving towards a people, or means if I am more gentle with myself, so I'll be able to develop resources, methods, or develop the ability to dodge away from the problem. If you are gentle with yourself, so you can move along whatever the people who are, wherever you are. So you'll be finding people who obviously are because the same self is present in them also, so operating in different level and magnitude. So you'll know, okay, so it's like it will be nice. So when you handle more, you handle the self gently, so you'll be doing that. So but if you control things, I will control, I want to manipulate, I want to exploit. So this is what happens in organization politics, where use of power, right? So it's like putting holding certain resources. So when you try to build controlling things, so what happened, the expansive solution of moving against the people will comes in picture. So when this is the part. So it's like when you say when you're gentle with your own self. So naturally, organically, you will be gentle with others. So you move along with the people, towards the people. So when I say I want to take this situation under control, which most of the corporates, the leadership is more about taking control of the people. So that's why now we have the theories like servant-based leadership, transformational leadership. Earlier, that kind of a leadership that we had seen in the early 90s and 1980s, it's more about taking control of things. So that is what being assumed as a mature kind of a behavior. So even in family also, yeah, when you are able to take control means I'm leading the family, I'm the head of the family, I should be able to control the things. Means what you are moving against the people of your own family members. So that's how it is. And I will grow my own protective shell. So this is something like, no, I want what, when you define it, your experiences, ನನಗೆ ಇದೇ ಬೇಕು, ನನಗೆ ಅದೇ ಬೇಕು, or I want only this, I want only this, right? So you're creating a protective shell, you're creating a kind of a bipolar world, so which is independent from the people and society, and that's where you'll get more hurt. So more you define on the outcomes on which you want to be, or you want to interact with the people, so you're moving away from the people. So to precisely to put in chance ourselves, if you are more gentle, you are moving towards the people. If you're controlling, you are moving against, because you are not doing it in consultation, right? Like a child psychologist or a facilitator, you should be a facilitator among your family members, consult them what can be done. Or if you do, sometimes you have to do control things, that's not a bad at all, because if you are seeing a child is doing temper and tantrum, you have to take the control of the situation. So again, you have to do that. So again, with respect to the protective shell, you need to create your own protective shell depending on how people, how far you are interacting. So you have to put an end border, no, so that yourself is not getting affected. But when that particular behavior is more predominant, it will result in moving away from people. Yeah. So that is a resignation solution. Okay. So if those defensive strategies become a lifestyle, right? So moving toward people, according to Carl Horney, moving towards the people leads to compliant personality with these traits. So need for affection and approval, need for a dominant partner. So that's what she views. And moving against the people leads to an aggressive personality with these traits. So need for power and exploitation, then need for achievement. So it's like, I want to push things. It's more like Rajasic, yeah, I have to do it. So that is a part of the nature itself, kind of. So when it rains, it rains. It will not be as gentle as it is. So the nature itself is like that. So moving away from the people, what happens is detached personality, where you need for perfection, where you take a break from all your work and try to contemplate very deeply and trying to understand and realign yourself with your uh, pursuit, setting narrow limits to the life, whatever. So like end of the day, you are trying to um, uh, revisit your faculties of instrument or cognitive faculties, emotional faculties, and say, ha, this is what is how I'm going to put myself foot in a right way. So moving away from the people is also towards in pursuit of need for perfection. Okay. There are some defense mechanism, auxiliary defense mechanism, according to Carl Horney's theory. So one is externalization, where she feels that other people become the center of the neurotic life, hence the feeling of inner emptiness. This is happens in who gives more importance. Someone might be bothering you, and that someone in reality, in your real life, may not be directly affecting your day-to-day routine of life, but the troubled part, it becomes somehow, you make it your core part of your life, center of your day-to-day life, and you feel more hopelessness, you feel more anxious, because a few people developing, there's one illusion, no, when you see a rope, you feel that it is a snake, right? So that's the kind of an externalization, is a kind of an defense mechanism. Then creation of blind spots. So this is where Johari window comes a very beautiful exercise. Most of the counseling and consultation, we the focus is on towards identifying the blind spots. So, what is a blind spot? So, blind spot is individual's inability to see how he is unique from or how he is different from his own ideal image. So sometimes we everyone has a blind spot. So like you have your own ideal image, so of doing, I want to do this, I want to do that, but your own self nature is different, something else. So we have to realign and say that, hey, this is actually what you are. The creation of blind spot. Most of the coach mentors are trained life skills coach. So it's like they have effective tools, like for example Johari window. So it talks about how we can identify the blind spot, the gray area of ourselves, which we don't know. So that gap which we don't know. So that is what the creation of blind spot. And coming to the next part is compartmentalization. What is compartmentalization? Where you boxify things, which we during pandemic we know the impact of compartmentalization when we brought the business into the family. So where how challenging it was. Yeah, but the thing is, we our human behavior is so much. We know. Okay, this is my place. This is my professional life. This is my so you compartmentalize, and so that you will be able to operate yourself on different spaces. So that is referred as compartmentalization. These are the different mechanisms. Compartmentalization works very well when you are having multiple roles and responsibilities. And too much of compartmentalization, what happens is like you will be a little bit stubborn. The fixation, rather than stubborn, the flexibility will become a challenge. So that's also one of the concepts. Yeah. Coming to the rationalization, this is another defense mechanism where I did this to make you happy, but not to make them like you. So you rationalize, you compare with X with Y and say the Z is not good. So that's the example. Excessive self-control, don't want to be caught in. So they try to be prefer to not to say prefer not to say kind of a group. So more the excessive life self-control, what happens? Vulnerability is what been seen. So it's like, but here this is the point where the cultural component differs. See, excessive self-control may do it need to vulnerability. So that's the Western point of view. From the Eastern point of view, the self-control and self-discipline is the foundation for handle vulnerability or whatever, to build clarity on of what your pursuit is. So this is where the Eastern and Western perspective I want to you need to be a little bit cautious when we say vulnerability of oneself. So when you handle your own self with a more authoritative way, yes. So that is a kind of an excessive self control. So that in that way, in that aspect, better to understood. But if you are not handling yourself with gentleness or kindness, so that is where the vulnerability class. Arbitrary rightness, so seeming very impulsive, judgmental kind of an action, seemingly impulsive decisions to avoid the pain of real decision making. So sometimes you take the switch the stands, or you take an arbitrary stance. Is like a gode mele adda the deepa ittage. It's like where you take like in order to face the real situation. Yeah, we will see. We'll do that. So you take some kind of a decision which is not rational at all, kind of it. So that is arbitrary rightness. Elusiveness, constant clouding of issues. Our mind is such a beautiful monkey. If you don't give any task, obviously the daydreaming is the most beautiful part. Is like it loves to travel right, front and forth, for back and front. The mind loves to travel all the way behind your past experiences and the future also. So for one moment, when I say the mind, is like what is the next part of work I need to do. So that's how the powerful. So it is elusive. So a constant clouding of certain issues. This would happen, that would happen. So that is also part of defense mechanism. Cynicism, assuming that self-interest is only motivation in operation. So therefore, behaving the one way of self. So that is the cynicism part. Okay, so to give a background, so Karin and her brother Brent called their father as a father the Bible thrower, because he would literally throw the Bible at his wife on an occasion. That's how the troubled childhood of the Karen Hornings. So Karen's father, though being a sea captain, had a rigid form of religion and very strict, and mother was more flexible, right? So one part section which she wrote in her diary: confirmation was no blessing for me. It was a great piece of hypocrisy. So if you look at these words, it's like, I feel too weak to follow Christ, yet I long for faith, firm as rock, that makes oneself and other happy. So again, these are the kind of in shoots, no, it's a kind of a part. So this gives kind of an why how this particular theory evolved. One is based on the on his Karen on his childhood experiences also led to a kind of an aspiration. So, according to her, the family dynamics had an ongoing conflict with their father. So she found, and she ended up marrying someone that shared similar of the same authoritarian qualities. And her older brother was preferred one. So Karen felt that in her family that she is unwanted. And Karen was very attached to Brent, so with his own brother. That led Karen, she struggled maybe much with depression. With her struggles and difficulties, she tried to understand what is the kind of a neurosis, what are the dynamics of it, and her analysis of neurosis has been recognized as a more insightful tool for the clinical practitioners today. Her theory are enjoying as a renewal of interest, because a person who is able to bounce back, who is more resilient, will be carrying some kind of a strength. So that is something which is a learning component that came up to the development of the her theory of personality. So that's it. So now class is open for question. So I'll give a little bit 5 minute interaction. Any questions that can be there, you can shoot me up with that.
Ma'am, initial a few slides. Could you show us? Actually, some slides I missed. Actually, initial. I mean,
Okay.
before I'll tell you. Um,
Madam, can you share the PPT to us?
Yeah, I will share the PPT. So I will
ma'am,
share the PPT.
ma'am, in the
Don't
chat
give
box
it.
itself, you can paste, ma'am.
Ma'am, all the four blogs, whatever the PPTs that I have used, I will do it together. So, uh, together at one shot, you will get whatever the PPTs that I have used. Okay,
Ma'am,
I will
yesterday.
give it to Hema Malini ma'am. She will be sending mail, and few of them have mailed me also. So, those who sent me a personal mail also, I'll share it. Ma'am, Hema Malini ma'am, can you help me with that?
Ma'am, before gender envy, there is a slide that could you please show?
Yeah, yes, ma'am. Yes,
Just before the gender envy, previous slide.
ma'am. 1 second. Yeah. So we started with whether Karen Horney
Yes, yes.
is a Freudian. Is there any difference? Yes. She also believes in unconscious element uh, component, but Freud overstressed on the biological component, where Karen emphasized the role of culture in terms of especially the gender stereotypes, of how the gender differences and the similarities that comes in. So that is one. So then we revisited the understanding the concept of Oedipus complex, Oedipus and Electra complex. These are the two complex that was proposed by Sigmund Freud. That is more towards the opposite gender aggressive feelings towards the parent, being envious. So it's like accompanied by this. So that's the kind of an attachment of the child to the parent of opposite sex. So in result, the same sex parent, so you will feel envy and aggressive feeling. So if it is a male child, so we refer it as Oedipus complex. If it is a female child, it is referred as a Electra complex. Both are historical figures. So we looked at how the Rome, how the Oedipus as a king, when he was his brother-in-law was got killed due to the plague. The same way, the Electra, her mother her father was killed, and she was very much envious on mother. So all those things, those kind, it is in its general use. So but Freud was very brave to talk about this at that point of time. To everyone rejected his and again cultural conflict, but he was more emphasizing on biological uh, component. So this is where the shift on his aspect is. It is more towards a cultural dimension. So he feels that, so it's like the culture becomes more predominant than the biological component.
Ma'am,
So
ma'am, just
it is a matter of social comparison.
ma'am, the gender conflict, that slide
Yes, ma'am.
before envy. No, 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 no,
Okay.
no. That conflicts before this, the conflict one slide. Yes, audible conflict. Yes, here this one. I mean, actually, I missed this part a little bit.
Okay. You can take a screenshot of this. I think.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. Thank
Um,
you.
Ma'am,
Yes.
just a liner. I think I absolutely enjoyed that the way you integrated few lines from Bhagavad Gita into the Western world of philosophy. Very appreciable. Very, very nicely done, ma'am.
Thank you.
Uh,
Because we should
yes,
not
ma'am.
lose
I
our
think,
context. Yeah, that's
yeah,
true.
that context is very essential. Unfortunately, the tragedy is that the IGNOU material has nothing from India,
Yes, yes, yes.
including in
So
history.
don't
It is
blame the
almost
ego,
as if,
but
But ma'am, you have, but ma'am, you have explained so beautifully. I mean, really, ma'am. Thank you so much.
okay, thank you, ma'am. So, but we should not blame the, but whatever the available resource material they come, the subject matter experts have put in their effort. This area is something more niche. So what we call it as Indian psychology, where this is one evolving area. It's a small area evolving. So where we try to integrate both schools of Western psychology and as well as the Eastern school of thought. So it is a niche area itself.
but given that we are an Indian university, we must include material from
Uh,
whatever is
from our
possible.
epics, ma'am, yeah, as you are
Yes.
integrated so many things, I mean, while explaining your explanation, so that if that connection we get, we also can understand what Indian psychology, I mean, how it is evolving, how it is, interpreting.
Yeah. So we should not misinterpret the concept. See, when a Freud can refer to the historical figures like this, even our way, we can also refer and try to do some analysis, come up with models. We'll let it be there. So fine. We should appreciate and acknowledge and integrate all thoughts.
Yes, yes, ma'am, yes.
Anything else? So shall we go ahead with the next part of our presentation? I know I'll take
Yes, ma'am.
only 30 minutes.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So just winding up. So I think to give an overview, block one of personalities, we looked at the definition and concept of personality, right? So we looked at. So I have not spoken about biological, psychological factors, environmental factors. We know the size of the family, family determinants. It's like it's a self studyable material. But again, the psychological factors, when we say it is the individual abilities, individual motivation, aspiration level, interest level, and the emotional intelligence level, intellectual component. So all these psychological factors also comes as a determinant of a personality development, and as well as the biological factors includes in terms of the overall physical health comes in important. And environmental factors, how far your interaction with the environment, the acceptance or feeling of deprivation, and the family culture, emotional climate side also plays a very important for the development of personality. And in block two, so we looked at in depth of understanding Sigmund Freud's psychoanalytic theory and dynamics of personality. And today we looked at social foundation of personality, which is based on basic anxiety, neurotic needs, and the theory of self. So we have the five selves. Hope you can remember the ideal self, the true self, the pretentious self. So all those, and then you can list on. So evaluation, how we evaluate, and the different defense mechanisms. Then we looked at Sullivan's theory of personality. Again, we looked at different personifications, three types of personification: not me, good me, bad me, right? So then the development of epochs right from the childhood. So different stages wise, how different personifications get solidified, and again the self system. So are kind of three aspects: protax, paratax, so syntax. So hope you can remember that. So that is the block two part of the personality assessment that we have. Personality theory on psychodynamic theory unit that we completed. Then coming to the block three, yesterday, which we looked at the role of social process, how the modeling through observation, through so the two components, two kinds of learning that we looked at: observational learning and vicarious learning. So we looked at the baby dolls experiment, how one control group, experimental group, and another third group which didn't receive any treatment, but a natural, which is as it is. So one who the children which witnessed the aggressive behavior of treatment of the dolls also expressed more aggressiveness, and the male child gave us like was more physically aggressive. So these are the kind of outcomes of the study, which talks about how what we see, how the child picks up through observation. So importance of modeling. So we looked at through Albert Bandura's theory. So that, and moreover, it is also referred as social cognitive theory, because he places on the concept of self as a system, self-efficacy. So we looked at the five tenets of the constructs of the theory framework. So the latest one is self-efficacy. Self-efficacy is referred as individual's ability or individual's confidence on his ability. Overall, his belief on his ability to organize and carry out the work of being resourceful. So that is what is referred as self-efficacy. Then yesterday class we looked at the meaning and purpose of personality assessment. So what is a psychological test? So what are the key aspects when we say, when we talk, when we use a tool as a aspirant psychological student, I should know what are the things I need to be understanding. First one is the norms of the tool, standardization of the tool. What is how the tool was developed, what is a standardized sample, on what sample. Then coming to the reliability of the tool, validity of the tool, right? Then the interpretation of the scores. So that is, these are the five major components of a good psychological test. So
Ma'am,
yes,
sorry to interrupt. Validity part, would you continue today?
yes ma'am, yes ma'am, we'll take it, we'll take that up. Yes. Okay,
Yeah,
validity
thank
is
you.
not that much. It's like how we establish validity, we'll touch it, sure. Okay, so then we looked at the rest part is like history of evolution of psychological tests, so that we looked into that. So yesterday we looked at the standardization norms, different types of norms: age norm, percentile norm. So you have based on t distribution, based on the distribution. So the Z, we have Z score, T test value score based norms. So a little bit of statistics that comes in norms, but generally we have age norms, percentile norms as a commonly used for all the development of tools. So that is one, we looked into that. Okay, so Now we will look at the next part. One second. Let me share the PPT.
Madam,
Yes, sir.
when I'm checking the book, actually, whatever you're saying, those things are like only one paragraph what we have in the book. So for the exam purpose, we need to go as per the book or how it is.
That's a good question. See, you can, if the intent is to clear the exam, go by the book. If you intend to
Okay,
is excel the exam, you can add a little bit more. Left to you, sir.
thank you.
I just give a brief outline, the validity of the test. Hope the slides are visible to everyone. Then I will speak about different personality tests to end the class. Okay. So, what is validity? So, validity, the concept of validity is formulated based on what we say the test is valid, which is supposed to measure what is intended to measure. So, definition of validity it is can be defined qualitatively as the test ability to measure what it claims to measure. For example, when I give a personality test to measure the personality, but it should not measure the motivation level of the individual. So that's the thing. So a test with high validity ensures that items are closely linked to the intended focus of the researcher. So validity is the core part of the testing and assessment. It legitimizes. It is this is where the scientific rigorness is established. Like when we say objectivity of the test comes when the validity is good, right? So the information gained from the test answer is relevant to the topic which is needed. So we have spoken yesterday. What is a reliable and not reliable? A reliable and valid means you are what you are intent to measure. You are precisely measuring. So what are different types of validity? So let us try to understand. There are one is the logical part. So how you can arrive the tool. So based on first we start with the logic. No, so it's like whether the concept is understandable to the people whom the respondent whom I am measuring that. For example, I want to come up with a test for students for a child to know the creative ability. So I will probably present it, ask the child to draw a house test. So there is one test is there, draw a family test to understand how the family structure it is there. So you start with the logical ways is like, okay, how, what is the age group of my respondents? So what are the items or what kind of difficult, based on the difficulty level, what is the kind of question that I can ask, how the instruction supposed to be. So you will focus on content, then you will focus on the phase part. So there are two types of validity: phase validity and the content validity. Phase validity is overall understanding the instructions and the administration part of the test. Either it is a projective test or an objective test. So it is the phase validity is focused on towards that. Content validity, where you will, in consultation with subject matter experts, you will ask the relevance of this particular test item is actually measuring the creativity part of the child. So when I say it's like child, I'll ask him to draw a house test, draw a house. So based on how the child draws, how many items that it brings, how the strokes are. So it's like you focus on content of the test. So that is one logical component: face validity and content validity. If I'm using an item for a Likert scale,
Ma'am, projective test, could you please explain a little more? Projective test, one example.
uh, pardon ma'am, projected, I'll tell, let me complete this validity of the test, then I will get into the different projective test. For example, I will give a picture or a stimulus and take your um, response to this. So I will present an ambiguous stimulus. It's an, I mean, I say ambiguous, where it doesn't have any pointers. So we'll present a stimulus. For example, when I give you a statement, every day this happens to me, so how far do you agree, how far you disagree? It is an ambiguous statement. I am not giving any judgment over there. So these are the part of content validity. So when you are building an item or coming up with an item, so it's like you can't in item pooling, so there are certain um, uh, careful intricacies that is being followed, like use of the words which are culturally sensitive, gender sensitive, all those things we have to follow, part of a researcher by a researcher ethical practices. So developing content, establishing content validity is the first, second step. Face validity, content validity. So this is one part. Second, you have after development of the tool and piloting, testing. So then you, with a large sample of data, so you establish the two types of validity, what is referred as concurrent validity and the predictive validity. So what is concurrent and predictive validity? So concurrent validity is like if I administer this particular personality test, so there could be some other test also measuring the extroversion, introversion. So I will with already existed developed standardized tools, along with the standardized tool. So I will also standardize my own tool and see how far it is concurrent with the construct which has been already developed. So higher the strength. So a few papers you might have come across in trait emotional intelligence development of a tool. It's a like psychometric tool. If you just, you can Google scholar trait emotional intelligence psychometric properties. A lot of concurrent validity. This particular author, he has used other personality tools which measures the trait component, and he has compared how far this particular construct is closely related to that also. So which means this is the most evolved concept where you can use. So that's how the psychometry industry works. So yeah, then comes the predictive validity. The predictive validity is the power of the test, how far it is able to predict the aspect. Okay, then comes the construct validity. Construct validity, how the text is like what we call it as the latent variable, the factor. After running the factor analysis, few items get grouped together, so that leading to some construct. So you develop a construct statistically, and part of logical component also comes in together, so that contributing towards the construct validity. So when we say establishing validity of a test, which includes face validity, content validity, construct validity, concurrent validity, and predictive validity, with all this, if the test is very good, or not, not all the tests will be very good at concurrent, consonant, or predictive. For example, MBTI has a issue with the predictive validity. So right, so that's kind of an, because yeah, so that is one part. And the face and content validity means the tool development itself is not being able to, either it could be issue with the item difficulty or how you organize the item. The item may not be reader friendly. A few items we use suddenly technical words which can be understood only one specific group of people. So those are the concerns that is being, so that you will establish the consistency of the instrument or the tool. Okay, so overall, so when we say consistency, the objectivity of the test is managed through validity. The reliability of the test, yeah, yesterday we have looked at the reliability component. So what are different methods? So validity of the experiments. So when you conduct the experiments, so you do an internal validity, external validity, then you draw conclusion. So that's what you have a number of trials. You have, if you look at the experimental design, so matching is there, randomization is one part, blocking is one part, right? So that you enhance the validity of the test. So validity of the measurement, is in terms of phase content convergence. So one is based on the construct, another is predictive, and concurrent is based on the criterion in which we are measuring. So that's the different validity of the measurement. So okay, let me deliberate on phase validity, whether the test appears on the phase value what it measure and claims to, right? So the content measure appears to reflect the construct which is being measured. So content validity refers to the extent to which a test captures a specific theoretical construct. Few items I develop, so for example, I develop a tool to measure the social learning ability or social cognitive ability of a child. So probably I look back Albert Bandura's theoretical framework, which talks about 5 constructs. Based on the 5 construct, I develop 10 items on these construct, then develop, so then ensure that it measures those components as well. So could be you, a few people might use as a theoretical framework, so where you establish the content validity. Then you have the convergent, the same different measures of the same concept, right? So which I told, scores of other related measures of the same construct. In MBTI, extroversion, introversion is also there. In Neo5 personality factor inventory, extroversion, introversion is also there. So I will see what is the correlation between these two tools, what is the strength. So if it is measuring the same component, the observed correlation coefficient will be very high. So that's how it is. So discriminant validity is one concept different from another. So the scores on this measure are not related but theoretically different. So so there is be, because when you are measuring how do I say, okay, big 5 personality, if you take, so agreeableness, conscientiousness, neuroticism, open to experience are different sub construct, right? So agreeableness should not measure the openness to experience. So that is what the discriminant validity is. So though it is measuring the personality trait of an individual, but these 5 subconstruct are theoretically different. So it's like, but it measures. So the agreeableness and the score, the item correlation between agreeableness and the openness to experience should have no correlation or low or no correlation. So thereby it is establishing the discriminant validity. Same way in intelligent test also, if when I say verbal test, reasoning test, right? So word association test should have discriminant validity. Okay. Then comes the criterion validity. So criterion validity, again, it comes in terms of predictive validity and concurrent validity. So predictive validity looks at the ability of the questionnaire, forecast future events of the behavior, how far, for example, we have GRE, SAT. So you say most of the selection areas, predictive validity is given. How far the power of the test is also looked into, the predictive power. For that, we have a good item response theory, and further rash models are there working in that. It talks about the power of the test. And coming to the concurrent validity means ability of the test to predict an event in the present form. So it is a test of different, so similar to predictive validity, but it examines the relationship between the measure and the time component at the same time also. So it is a test for difference. Another is test for validating few different tasks. So it's predictive is more application oriented, concurrent is more identifying the individual differences. So these are the other references that you can use for your if you are interested in the field of psychometry. So that's all about validity and reliability of the test. So let me get on to the next part, which is the last part of the personality assessment methods, right? So that is very important. So there are paper and pencil personality tests like 16PF, MBTI, then computer administered personality tests are there. So then you have objective tests of personality. So so we'll look into that. So when we say what is objective, so objective personality test will have problems of self-reported. So like yesterday, a few of them asked, can we do a self-assessment of our own, right? So, so objective personality test is like a are more based on self-reporting, right? So one of the limitation of self-reporting is the desirability. So like for example, we discussed yesterday. So hidden consciousness, unconscious thought cannot be uncovered through self-report data. Means an objective personality test. So you can fake because of desirability. So that is one. So that's why to overcome the limitation of objective tests, so how we can uncover the hidden part, unstructured part, unconscious component of the personality. So we have projective methods. A projective method where you present a stimuli, an unambiguous stimuli, so that you can tap the hidden thought process of the individual. So Rorschach test is one such. So it is it is focus is on unveiling the unveil hidden thought process. Over the years, psychologists have developed norms and standards to interpret the result. Psychometric soundness is an issue because the projective part, each one will be having a subjective experiences that comes in. So how I analyze and interpret those experiences, again, that's an a you need to standardize that process. So a lot of qualitative transcription interpretation that goes into the test. So followed by what pops up, for example, any exercise that I give you, suddenly this is like you have to give to the mind immediately. Time lapse will actually what happens is our mind is so good, it will become alert. So you will develop socially desirable and responses. So you'll think whether whatever the responses that I give is socially acceptable or not. So again, there be no ethical or legal consequences. So whenever you administer any tool, so you should give them the instructions you might have already received. Please read, and whatever comes in your mind, respond. There are no right and wrong answers. So these are given for the put the instructor into his writing. So this is one picture of a Rorschach in block test. So now I can ask the students in the class, by looking at this. I will not analyze you, but whatever comes to your mind, can share. Anybody from the class?
Ma'am, we are not seeing the slide. Are you sharing the ink blot
Oh
slide?
my God! Oh my God! Oh my God!
I mean, you did not share any slide, whatever you explained so far in this
Okay.
segment.
Okay. No problem. No problem. Okay. So, okay.
Ma'am, can I share from the first?
Yeah. This is the first one, ma'am. Yeah. Paper and pencil objective methods. We have paper and pencil test, computer administered personality test, objective test, and item in this format can be answered, scored, analyzed, and interpreted. Objective methods. So now we are looking at the limitation of the objective, because problems of self-reported data, the reaction against objective test will be like moving away from the norms, more personalized, social desirability component, and you will not be able to capture the unstructured object that are hidden in the part of the personality. So that's why we have projective methods. So what are the projective methods? It is where you give an unambiguous stimuli or a statement or a picture to unveil the hidden thought process of the individual. So over a period of time, a few people, psychologists have developed norms even for the projective methods also, and standards to interpret the result. So, though psychometric soundness is a concern in projective methods, because in a class of 68 people, when I show, we will demonstrate right now. So that is one. So why projective method, psychometric soundness is a concern. We will revisit that. So now there is one Rorschach test which yesterday I was mentioning. So. So in a now let's do a kind of an exercise. Please, I request all the class participants and dear students to be actively engaging with this. Can use the chat box. So there are no right or wrong responses. Whatever word that pops up in your mind immediately after looking at the picture, please uh, put it in the chat box. Okay. So here is one picture.
Bat.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. Please put it in the chat box. What you see? Brain bat. Okay. Only two participants. Butterfly. Okay. Insect. Ink mark. Disoriented. Yeah. So the challenge from the psychometric perspective, so it's like, see, when how I interpret the responses, each one coming with a kind of different words, and uh, how I interpret those richful responses. So each one will be okay. This is bad. That means what? What is the interpretation? Standardizing those, analyzing those pattern is one. So let's go on to the next figure. What is this?
Lungs.
Interesting. Nice. I mean, I don't have anything to measure, but if I talk about how this particular tool was, a very interesting story behind it. But I love these patterns, because the patterns, even in mandala art also,
It
how
looks
we
it looks
cognize.
like an abstract art,
Yeah.
Yeah,
because the
it looks
colors were
like two
given
people
on.
interacting.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Smoker's lungs.
The
To
colors were given
elephants,
on
My
one
maybe
doctor,
side and it was
Miss clearly
imprinted on
mentioned.
the other side.
Pardon?
Ma'am, could you please show the previous slide once, ma'am? Quickly.
Okay, ma'am.
Yeah, thank you, ma'am.
For me, it looks like a Halloween. Two eyes and two like kind of. Yeah.
even pelvis was very close. I felt pelvis.
Interesting, no? So like how can be viewed? Yeah, that is
Kind
true.
of ghostly also, ghostly figure.
So it's yeah, we'll go and we'll go on next. Third, this one.
It's very
It's a
artistic.
frog.
Yeah.
It looks like a
Frog.
frog.
Okay. Anything else?
Ma'am, two people are holding something.
Two
Two people
people
are
are
carrying
holding,
something.
ma'am, two people
Yeah,
are holding a
people
crab. Two
carrying,
people are holding a crab.
two
Okay.
people are carrying pots.
Oh, interesting. That is a interesting one. Carrying pots, nice.
To me, it appears like two people are dancing.
Two people
People
are
are
dancing.
pulling two swans.
Yeah, I can also see the dance and the party atmosphere.
Yeah. Okay. Next one.
I see
A
a bull.
ghost lying down.
Mm-hmm. Ghost lying down.
I see a charging
Interesting.
bull.
Actually, it looks like flying ghost.
Flying ghost. Okay.
I see a charging bull.
Charging bull. Okay. Interesting. Nice.
Something like that. Varaha. I'm just going to Kantara movie. I don't know why it just reminds me like the headpiece from that movie.
Yes, it looks like Varaha.
So the success of Kantara movie can be predicted through Rorschach block test. Okay. Next.
Peacock.
Butterfly.
Moth.
Butterfly.
It's a kangaroo widened, body.
Flying bat.
Kangaroo widened body.
It looks
Or
like a
maybe
moth
it looked like a moth that I said, and
from the
right
aerial
now
view.
I see a flying rabbit.
Same here. I was just about to say that. Rabbit with wings.
A bat, maybe.
Okay, interesting.
It's like a Batman. A Batman is flying, right? Aerial view.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Good. Okay, next one.
Skin
Guitar.
of a tiger. Guitar. That's a good one.
What sir?
Skin of a tiger.
Tiger. Skin of a tiger. Okay.
Yeah.
A
Aerial view.
walnut that is sprouting.
Something with a brain, like a walnut. Yes, distinguished very clearly or something.
So I think it looks like a dissected, insect or worm or something like that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
A dragonfly exiting or escaping from a narrow tunnel kind of.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Spine of a creature, of
Fine
any kind.
creature. Nice. Interesting.
Spawn.
Very interesting. Okay. Good. This one.
Thumbs up.
Thumbs up. Okay. For me, it looks like two elephants. Okay.
Two monkeys, like their
Yeah,
backs were attached and they were back and looking at each other.
Yeah,
exactly.
they're
Even I
staring
thought
at each
it
other.
looks like
Dancing,
the
a dancing
monkeys.
pose, a dancing pose looks like,
I see
Two
two
girls
girls.
sitting on their knees facing each other.
Mm-hmm.
I see two beautiful baby girls with ponytail dancing.
Yeah, that's nice. Yes, correct. Yes, looks like.
Wonderful. Okay. This one.
Some kind of
Animal
emblem.
Kingdom.
Two bears climbing up the hill.
Wonderful. Okay.
I
Who
see so
represents
many animals.
some kingdom's emblem.
Yes.
I see so many animals. I see bear. I
Yes,
see
fair, yes.
tiger. I see lion. I don't know. I see so many animals here. An elephant.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Mountain. I see mountain.
I
Yeah,
mean,
I see a tiger walking on beside the lake.
Tiger
Like,
walking on beside the lake.
yeah,
Okay.
beside the lake. Like
I see a
it's
sheep.
getting the reflection.
I see the two animals are trying to climb up the mountain, with the help of other animals.
Mm-hmm. Wonderful. Next one.
See
Celebrate.
Eiffel Tower.
Eiffel Tower.
Eiffel Tower with sea creatures. Is a seahorse. Some
Holy in front of Eiffel Tower.
Coral,
coral.
something. Yeah, coral, something on
animals,
those lines.
sea creatures.
Wonderful.
I can see a
Okay.
squirrel also.
Good. So, so these are the projective method ink blots as a projective stimuli. So what Rorschach, he developed, basically he's a Swiss psychologist named, his name is Hermann Rorschach. So pronounced as Rorschach. So he has the history as like his one of the favorite games which he was a child was ca- calexcography, so which is involved in creating ink balls, creating the stories or poems about them. So basically you drop a ink in exact the middle section of the paper, and whatever the pattern arises, so with that he started developing an art through that. So Herman had a strong interest in this ink block and continued into adulthood. So what happens, so suddenly he discovered that the simple blots of ink spotted a piece of paper folded in half, and he opened it again. So there is no that much of artwork is there. If you look at each pattern, it's a drop of an ink with different combinations and color that gives a lot of ambiguity. There is no I mean, sometimes the picture makes sense. Sometimes when you start making sense, then you go on associating with from monkey to elephant, elephant. Everyone participate. That looks like that also. This also. So that's how the
Ma'am, this activity actually it is done in schools also, ma'am. Teachers give to children to do in school, art activity.
Yes, yes. So, as an outcome of this, Herman interest of this, it was experimented in psychiatric hospitals early in 1970s to 20. He observed that individual with schizophrenia responded to these ink blots differently, and that helped him to diagnose few disorders and made him to look at how the ink blots and create different profiles of mental disorder. So that's how he went into in depth, and he developed systematic approach of using ink blots. So today what we are looking at it is the standard one is 15 ink block cards, where uh, and that's why and he's published his ink blot also. So that's the part. So we use two stimuli word association and sentence completion test on this. This is like based on this, and there are few other projective tests like thematic apperception test, where you give certain you present as one scenario situation, then you ask the person to what will happen next. So projective methods, then you have production of figure drawings, right? So draw a house test, draw a pencil, like that. So draw a family test. So most of the child psychologists use this kind of figure as a projective tool to understand the underlying component. So very often children who have limited verbal skills, this projective test becomes a very good tool to as a part of the assessment. So projective methods in perspective assumption is it's a projective hypothesis. Situational variables also comes in very important. How you administer and your current state of your mind is also very important. And psychometric consideration also need to be the interpretation, analyze, standardizing the process of interpretation of the scores is also concerned. So, for example, here Mary is 34-year-old. She's attractive. So and so. I'm giving a profile. She tried some new ventures, but none of them continued dating. And it's like, so how can you help her? What is the personality assessment approach will you use? So when I give this fact, so situational also becomes kind of an important part. So then you have several behavioral assessment based on now today a lot of online assessments are there. So I'll not role play, behavioral observation, rating scale, situational performance measures. So you have a gamification as one of the tool, and a lot of advantages like provide baseline data, gives the strength and weakness. So all those things it is there. So we have revisited. So here is a picture of a thematic apperception test, which we will be taking up in practical class in future. I think so. So you will ask the respondents, for example, especially to tap the conscious and unconscious element of the personality. So here ideas are drawn through the language usage. So you present a picture and ask what is happening in the picture, what has happened and what will happen in next. So like that you will ask. So as a story, so the response will be like, the woman in the picture is a female scientist, she's brilliant. So when they say the association, the word like brilliant, how she is associating herself to that, right? So she's under the supervision of male scientist, the man is not good as the woman. So there is second association comes in, right? So then he will take the findings on his own credit, claim the credit. Third association, it is unfair. So that's the hidden component where you do the analysis. For this, a proper training, rigorous training is required. It is like doing the transcription of Puranas to today's. It's like if you misinterpret the transcription, what is the intended, you are looking at the wrong point, like reliability and validity issue. Hope now we can connect. So if you do a wrongful interpretation, claim the credit. So credit means if I ask, if I put a finance person here, he'll be like debit and credit. Oh, he needs more credit here. See, I'm just giving an hypothetical situation. So a proper training is required to understand how the words are associated behind the motives, goal directed behavior, what are the different motives. So she is brilliant, she wants to be brilliant, she wants, so recognition is a motive. So so findings like claim the credit, she wants, there is a need for recognition is very much clear. So that is the motivational component is very clear. Then for that she perceives there is an unfairness. So that's the kind of a story. I mean, this is not my story, this is a kind of an example of a respondent's story, which gives about the how the story based on this picture it is being analyzed. So then, based on thematic apperception test, so you will look for what is the need for achievement, need for affiliation, need for power. So you have on this self-references, how much time I, me, my came. So right in Dara Bendre's work, we have four tantis, Naku Tanti. Nanu, Anu, Tanu. So these are the four kind of nishadas all the time. I, me, and my. So and mine. So Anu, Tanu, Nanu. So all these things comes in very much handy. So it's like kind of a thing when you are perspective of projecting ourselves to the world. So social words, positive emotion, negative emotions, all this comes in very this how the thematic perception test interpretation scoring is been. I'm just sharing a kind of an data how it looks like. So all this interpretation need for affiliation based on how it is discussion is done. So for this you need a proper training, thorough understanding, how to administer, how to score, and how to interpret. So all those aspects, the big picture, overall, what is the big words? So use of big words, weakly related, higher. So what the overall? So what are the negative emotion words? For example, here anxiety related, whatever anything that has come up. So that will be put into that. So can you tell a story based on this picture? I'm just curious. Anyone from the class? Will not judge you.
Lost his mate.
Yes, sir. Pardon, sir?
I think he has lost his mate.
Lost his mate.
To me, he looks like a spiritual guru or someone because he has placed his leg on that one leg on a small stool and looks like there's something else. He seems to be relatively rich and most likely waiting for clients, kind of conveying to clients that he is treating them in the same position that he is or something like that.
He looks like he is invited in a a place where he has to his interview or some opinion or something will be taken from him because he's provided with juice and thing, and he looks happy to come there, means he's going to get some recognition or his profession related thing he would be happy to share, or his knowledge or ideas kind of thing, because he looks very happy and waiting for someone to come and
Posing for a picture.
posing, yeah, maybe.
To me, he seems like a would-be groom who would be groom waiting for his bride. The chair seems to be like a wedding chair, and the
Okay.
guy
Yeah, I would
is
say
happily excited, like happily anxious. The person looks happily anxious.
Absolutely.
yeah, I would say he's little tired waiting for someone to meet.
I think it's a art gallery where this is a setup. He was walking by. He's one of the people visiting the art galleries, and he took the liberty to sit on one of the chairs that was on
Fantastic.
display.
Fantastic.
Well, well,
Yes.
Yeah, I would also agree with Chitra.
That comes up
Fantastic.
the excitement he has on his face.
see how wonderful, no? Each one coming up with their view, and each one has its the uniqueness. You can't actually refute. The point should not one should not refute rather than integrate all these observations. How it looks on the positivity side part. For me, it's like I'm very much curious on the juice. It's that a mango juice or something that is being placed, and water is there. I'm like, okay, that's very nice. This is like very healthy. Yeah, see, you can take one. This is what Gestalt's view, whole versus picture, part versus pictures. Like, can go one part by part and build a whole picture. So one picture can gives a lot of. This exercise is very important on a day-to-day basis. Is like by reflecting on the picture either from internal or external part. So if you are able to view that picture and appreciate and acknowledge it is end of the day, I think the class, whoever the collective engagement that we have spent from all last 4-5 hours on different periods of time will be fruitful and meaningful. So again, this is one another one sample item. For example, Rosenweg picture frustration study. This is one. It's a shame my car had a breakdown and make you miss your train. And what would the response would be? So use of cartoons also. That's one way of creative way of doing this. And sentence completion test. I like to dash dash dash. Someday I will become a millionaire, or someday I will become whatever. As I will always remember the time I spent with my father, mother. I worry about XYZ. That's it. So these are the different projective tests. So that I wanted to cover. So I have already covered objective test, right? Paper pencil test. So the projective test today, I think I have um, completed the whole syllabus. Uh, now to take up quick questions, class is open. We can wind up the class. 10 minutes. Can.
Ma'am, will you be
These
taking the class in the evening?
Evening, no class. No.
Okay.
Ma'am, these projective tests are supposed to be administered on self or on someone else, and how do you interpret? There's a set
So
of
there is a manual that is there based for that the responses, the response sheets. So you code them. So there are categories for example, thematic apperception test. So there are word categories which you put them into different three themes: need for affiliation, power, and recognition. So that's based on need theory, motivation theory. So again, each one comes up with a theory and its own interpretation. So yeah, there is a need to administer projective test. It is not. It need more training. It need in consultation or in consultation with a clinical practitioner. This test has to be hand holded. It is not like that you download a 2 3 objective tests like personality factor or these are very easy because paper pencil tests, it clearly written down instructions are there, scoring is easy, but it's still this little bit of difficult, but you can manage. But for projective test, um, uh, it's not administering. You can start with administering with yourself, but more into how write the discussion, because when you write the discussion, you are writing a profile of the respondent. So in-depth discussion is like 2 to 3 4 pages of discussion will be there. So what on this dimension, what it means on each word, what it means. So then you give an overall profile. So a lot of writing also happens clinically. So you need assistance and training with handling the projective test clinically aspect. That's why internships are meant to fill those gaps. So make sure that you get the internship, which also does the projective tests, and you get a hands-on experience on that also. You can keep that as one of your bucket list.
Thank you, ma'am. I was just about to ask you as to if this is within the scope and we would be doing something like this now that you've clarified. Thank you so much.
Okay.
All these includes like Rorschach's test, positive test, perception test, all?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, thank you, ma'am.
Ma'am, this selection of tests for assessing personality, I mean, what is the criteria for that? Is it that in different situations we have to choose particular test? How do we do that?
Yeah. So usually when there is a client that has comes to you, so based on the issue of the behavioral component, is it an issue related to intelligence, or I mean, rather than issue, what is the concerns? We should not be first. We do a proper case history. So we'll take a kind of an overview of the concerns and the issues. If it is a family related conflict issue, so you don't need, but if the in that family related conflict issue, if the individual self is a concern, or if the individual feeling anxious or depressed or helplessness, okay, let us see how far the extent how that has affected the personality, or how far it is you can do in that way also can be done. So that's why through series of sittings, first basically you have to listen and listen and listen, then you have to take a call in consultation with mm, uh, uh, discussion of the case with your seniors, and then what tool need to be administered is taken call. As soon as someone comes, okay, when I say I have a personality issue, I can't administer a tool straight away and say this much, this is how the issues are coming from. No. And the tool interpretation and outcome has to be communicated in such a way that it should not affect, that should not become a taboo for them also. It has to be presented in such a way which enable them, empower them to work it out. So most of the group sessions, family sessions, assessment may not be predominant, but it is more or like an activity based, action based kind of a thing. So if it is a one-to-one on working on one particular phobia or one particular learning disorder, it needs a series of sittings. So you might use some cognitive. It is not one particular intervention. You might be having mixed methods. So probably you go for a cognitive-based kind of an approach, or you probably might go for a humanistic approach, like strength-based kind of an approach. So whatever, in combination of this. Tool might become an aid along with that. It's like when you go for a cricket, you need all the gloves, pads, helmet all together. So like that, should have all these 2 years of your master's journey. So hope you will collect the collection, good understanding of use of test as well as when to use. Because when you take up clinical or counseling psychology specialization, it will clearly talks about understanding the client, because we don't call them as patient, because the client because that should not become a taboo, because that's one of the ethical and practice which we that's like we should never ever identify them with a disorder. That's highly unethical. So, and the patient also, we call them as a client. So client, so we have client centered therapy, Rogers, then unconditional positive regard, a lot of therapeutic techniques. If you are concerned about what are different therapeutic techniques, clinical counseling psychology is very good. I want to know more different methods. Clinical psychology is also very good paper. In an industrial settings, employee engagement is one, burnout is an issue, work life balance is an issue. Okay, enhancing the efficiency, performance of the people is my concern. So in an organization setting, you can take industrial and organizational aspect also, because today OD consultation, coaching, mentoring, everything, all three are important. Don't compartmentalize, but whatever based on your strength, and you can take up those specialization, and you further you'll be equipped the art of doing. See, the first year which you are studying psychology is all science, and second year is all you're studying is the art of understanding people, articulate more understanding people, and enabling them the journey of healing. So you can't heal anyone. So let us be very clear about it. We can't heal anyone, but in the healing process, you can be a good companion by so giving that kind of an emotional support and moral support for them to bounce back. So that's the whole spirit behind counseling and clinical psychology. That's it.
Ma'am, I have
Thank
a
you. Thank you
question.
so much, ma'am.
Ma'am,
Ma'am, I have a yeah,
Yes.
yeah. Okay.
ma'am, you've
Yes,
quite a
Neha.
number of times you have given references from yoga. So we would, and that's a very holistic approach. So how do we orient ourselves, or you can suggest some reading material? I know it's not little, it's quite a huge content, but at least let us start orienting ourselves towards that.
That you can do parallelly. So Indica Yoga is one. You can just type Indica Yoga. A lot of webinar talks on a regular basis happens there. A lot of reading materials also will be there, and then. I mean, we have abundant resources, ma'am, in that area. Can't say there is a dearth. So the lot of people and content have gone in. The spiritual science is coming up in a very big way after pandemic. Everyone are speaking about spirituality at workplace, spirituality here, developing spiritual intelligence is after emotional intelligence. Now people are concerned with spiritual intelligence. Yeah, that's a part. And few people suddenly AI is also important, SI is also important. Yes, it is an involving. Indica Yoga is one good platform, and then you have there's another, what is I forgot. I will keep, I'll keep. So this is one you can follow, and a lot of Indian psychology book by Dharmapal. It's his works are something which I admire and appreciate. A lot of works have gone in the field of Indian psychology. You can explore. There is one Indian Institute of Indian Psychology. There's a body which is there, so you can closely watch over thing. Any update in a year where I am working, it says we have Bharatiya Management as a wing, which is a dedicated center. So we take up aspects and with contemporary to the modern management. So a few research works also happens there. So anything that comes up, we'll share. No problem.
Ma'am, this Indian Psychology Institute in Bangalore, are you talking about?
Yeah, IIPR, Indian Institute of Psychological Research, there also. That's earlier it's one kind of a college, but what I was told is Indian psychology. This is like Indian Psychology Association, something is there. So that is founded to promote research which is based on the blend with this. Anyway, so you can look at Indica Yoga, so to start with.
Ma'am, who is the author of the book Indian Psychology?
Okay. Oh my God.
Dharmapal.
One second.
Dharmapal, did you say, ma'am?
No, that's another author. So Indian psychology, a lot of books are there, ma'am. So Indian psychology.
Best.
One second. To list a few, just give me a moment. I need to take the resource.
Ma'am, as soon as the yoga term pops up, everybody thinks of only physiological.
Correct.
Actually, it's about the actual meaning of yoga is the union. It means to say that you have to go internal. So it's the mixture of both emotional and also physiological. So I think to balance it, that's the main purpose, I think.
100% rightly said, sir. You are rightly said.
Understanding the psychology, I think, just comes first because you don't even know what to do with the asanas till you know the psychology of yoga.
So that's what when we handle it mechanically. So it's like postures. When we say today we have dog yoga, power yoga. So these are the results of mechanization of yoga, which is overused. So what we need is like how we can handle yourself gently. I want to keep it as simple as it is. What are the ways and means? It's like how you can handle yourself gently. That more
Love
sensitive.
everyone.
Yes,
Love
sir.
everyone.
Yes, sir. Love. I say that's true. Okay. So books. Few of the books are. One second. I'm just.
And if you can share the screen, we can take a screenshot.
Okay.
Love and forgive.
This is not part of your syllabus, right? Okay, but I'm very happy that the participants in the group are a little bit concerned. It's like there's something they are concerned with here, right?
Can you give some reference names for the where counseling courses? Good counseling courses will be done in Bangalore. Are done institutions.
That you can see some preferred Indian psychology books. Handbook of Indian Psychology by K. Ramakrishna Rao and Foundation of Indian Psychology. A lot of work has gone in, so we can look into this speculation in philosophy, Indian psychology. Hope we can take the screenshot. So that is okay. Now. Yeah, Banjara Academy is there, Prasanna Counseling Center is there, lot of good Spandana are there. Good are there. Yeah, you can go for it. Then I think the 1 minute time up for the class. I will wind up the class. Hope we had a good session.
For clinical, can you suggest some institute?
Clinical? Yeah, the clinical. Yeah.
I know of only Nimans.
Yeah, not only Nimans. There are a lot of other. For example, Prasanna Neurodiagnostic Center, which is in Wilson Garden. If you are Spastic Society in somewhere in Shankarmat Road, so that is there, and a lot of these NGO-based clusters are there. One of my students also, she's running a rehabilitation center. So there's lists that is available online also. You can.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you so much. So wish you a very good day.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am, for your time.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Hi, one announcement. I have sent a mail. There is no class in the evening. Nitya madam's class is not there. Please note that.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Madam.